when she procures bids for ISU with construction and came to your school and spoke to your staff for 2 straight days. Why did she do that? This is why she did that. This is why she did that. To make sure that when our students want to know whether or not they have a vagina or a penis, they have pictures from your staff to be able to help them. They don't have enough sex. They don't have enough anal sex. They need adults to tell them how to masturbate. This was too much for you, I can tell right now. And that's why you're cutting me off. But last time I said, you know what? Critical race theory. Little girl in the back was laughing every single time Megan said something because white people oppress black people, right? Isn't your principal black? Isn't your mayor black?
Wow. As the curtain's being pulled back on what critical race theory is and what's being taught to kids in schools, more outraged parents are taking the debate to their school boards. And our next guest is helping them out. Author of They're Not Listening, political consultant Ryan Gerdusky started the 1776 Project PAC, which aims to raise money for school board candidates who oppose critical race theory. He joins us now to tell us about it. Ryan, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
First, why, before we get into your PAC, and I want you to give us the details of what you're planning to do, what you are doing, why is it that we're having this national moment, it seems, where critical race theory is getting a lot of attention? I mean, about a week ago, Barack Obama said, oh, it's some right-wing, drummed up nonsense. But we keep having parents at schools and parents at different places across the country saying, no, this is being taught to my kids. So why is this all coming together now?
Well, I think that parents are just more aware, especially because of COVID. A lot of students were learning from home over the last year, and they could actually see what their teachers were teaching their kids. That's how I became more involved. Is I have a nephew who's 9 who his mother was able to actually hear what he was learning when his teacher told him that police cars only follow black cars and not white cars, and was trying to gaslight a child into police brutality. She became very upset by it, and she alerted me to it. And I think parents, by the millions, were being alerted to what their teachers were actually teaching their children.
So there's also then just the greater awareness that comes from more parents who are home during the Zoom instruction sessions, perhaps, and seeing what's being sent home with the kids via video and email on a regular basis. So I think that's an important point for everybody. So what are we seeing now when it comes to parents organizing against this? What are you trying to do with the 1776 Project PAC?
Well, parents across the country have reached out to me. They are organizing in their local districts. I created the very first federal super PAC to focus on school board elections. The PAC will raise money and campaign on behalf of candidates who oppose critical race theory in elections as early as this year. I think we're in 10 different states in 2021 that we plan on campaigning on behalf of school board candidates who are opposed to critical race theory and trying to overturn school districts that are teaching it. And they'll be able, once we have conservatives running the school boards, to buy new textbooks, hire new superintendents who can push back on principals and teachers that are promoting this. And critical race theory comes in many different forms. I think it's important now to also teach these candidates, once they are elected, about things like equity programs, which is what they're forcing teachers to do training in, which is another form of critical race theory. They sit there and they say that certain traits, like the ability for rugged individualism, for entrepreneurship, capitalism, these are all forms of whiteness which need to be opposed, and they need to suggest that children not, if they show these attributes, be pushed away from them.
And what does it take to win? I mean, at a school board level, I'm just wondering, I mean, this is obviously not like a congressional or a Senate race. So is it smaller amounts of money that we're talking about here that can be very helpful and then spread across the country? The idea is to create essentially just the beginnings, the momentum of a grassroots anti-CRT uprising in the school boards. I mean, talk me through how this works for individuals you're going to be backing.
So 90% of school board elections are nonpartisan. That's a big advantage. So we don't have to only compete in red areas. We can compete in blue areas, purple areas, all the rest of it. In 2021, there's only 2 major elections, which is the governor's race of New Jersey and the governor's race of Virginia. Outside of those two those 2 states, most elections have a turnout average of about 10 to 15%. It's incredibly low. Activating 5% of the base, 5% of the population, which may be very conservative, to get out and vote could drastically swing these school board elections. And we could do that through mailing campaigns and through digital ads, which are enormously cheap. I'm hoping to spend about $15,000 to $20,000 per race to help flip school boards. And I think that raising, your dollar goes a lot further in these school board races than in, a congressional race or a U.S. Senate or governor's election.
And what do school boards, I mean, I don't have kids, so I've never dealt with a school board before. What do school boards do, and how do they factor into critical race theory teaching across the country?
So school boards do everything from planning days off or winter breaks to doing important things like making the budget, like approving certain pieces of curriculum, like hiring textbooks, hiring superintendents. Those people are enormously important, superintendents in the school board, because they create the training programs which are then being used for teachers. Teachers in many of these schools are having to go through these critical race theory, anti-racism, or equity training programs where they're taught basically how to teach in certain curriculum with critical race theory, how to teach them that whiteness is a problem, how to teach children about race, how to sit there and incorporate critical race theory in history, not only history and civics, but also in science and math. It's an enormously important position. And hopefully we can get conservatives elected across the country and they can hire conservative superintendents. We can push back on critical race theory and basically end it in state after state, district after district. And I'm hoping, by the way, that there are activists who are on school boards, but there's a lot of people who are kind of just going with the flow. I hope that they feel that the threat of campaigns running against them could push them to be activists opposed to critical race theory rather than people just going with it because they don't want to, cause a headache.
Ryan, is the left already pushing back on you in different ways? I mean, usually the way this stuff goes is that the left establishes institutional dominance, and then for a long time they just say, what are you talking about? There's no left-wing bias in whether it's the federal government or Hollywood or social media, whatever it is. There's no left-wing bias. And then eventually when it becomes too much and there's actually a movement to push back against it from everybody from the center on right, then all of a sudden they mobilize as a kind of counter to the counter revolution. Are you already getting some pushback on this? Or are people upset that you're creating a super PAC to get rid of CRT?
Well, the teachers' unions are the main organizers behind pro-CRT candidates, so we'll receive pushback from them monetarily and in the ballot box. But leftists, I think there's a media narrative right now that Republicans are "quote unquote" pouncing or going on the attack. When in fact, we didn't, to quote Billy Joel, we didn't start the fire. It's not that we are opposed to sitting there and teaching real history and are trying to change curriculum. It's the left who started it, and we're just trying to preserve what we have or what we had and trying to actually make it more. We're trying to be proactive rather than just reactive. I want to create a curriculum that teaches kids not only about true American history, but also, true global history. Kids should have to know about the horrors of human history that, before the white man got here, America wasn't the Disney version of Pocahontas singing to trees and having a Woodstock festival. It's a really, really terrible place. And I want people to know about overall the history of the world, history of the human race has been bad for most of its history. And you're really in a lucky place right now to be born and be alive. And it's not by accident. These institutions take a very long time to create, and they're very easy to destroy. And I think children should learn that.
Ryan, where should folks go if they want to get involved, help out, donate?
Yeah, 1776 Project PAC, PAC.com.